much as possible. So we'll just get started, but keep in mind that we're recording this as well, so any people who haven't been able to make it today, I know that stuff often hits the fan at around this time of day, so if you aren't able to make it, you can always check out the recording after the fact as well. So Barb, I'm not sure if you're able to record on the server. Fantastic.
Yes, I've done that already. Yep, I pressed the record button and it passed you back to the host role.
You're so good. You were all over it. Okay.
We're in sync. Enjoy your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Margaret. So my name is Jonathan. I'm from Military Family Services. I'm the lead on the Voice, or Military Family Panel, as it's sometimes referred to. But we've actually tried to stay away from the whole panel idea just because it's not a set group of people, and if we call it a panel, then often people think, so who's on this panel? And it's over 1,000 members now, so there are lots of military families involved. So again, my name is Jonathan. I'll try to keep this to an hour. We're going to be recording this. I'm going to be moving fairly quickly through this presentation because I actually want to get to your feedback as well. But this is partly for the purpose of sharing with you what we know so far about My Voice, in addition to getting your feedback. So just keep in mind when I'm talking about My Voice, that's kind of the Facebook iteration, and we found that 90% of families actually prefer to offer their feedback via Facebook. But that's not the only way that people can offer their feedback. We offer them the family information line that, as you know, is open 24/7. And we also have an email, myvoice@familyforce.ca, that they're welcome to send in their comments to. So yeah, we've got hopefully a number of different methods for anyone to be able to contact us. So just keep in mind that because we've got so many people on the line, we've got several people on teleconference as well as WebEx, just try to keep your microphone muted in the background so that we don't hear dogs barking and stuff like that when people are trying to talk. But just before we get started, I just wanted to check and see who we have on the line. So I want to do a quick roll call. I'm just going to go through my list that I have currently in alphabetical order by first name, and then we'll see who I'm missing. So first of all, I have, is Allison from Mainland here? Okay, and anybody else from Mainland BC? Okay, so they weren't able to make it. Angela and Eden from Edmonton.
Yes, we're here.
Great, and we have Anne Bruno Poulain de Bagotville. Est-ce que vous êtes là?
Oui.
Oui, ok, parfait. Il y a une autre personne de Bagotville, n'est-ce pas?
Oui.
Ok. C'est qui ça?
Daniel Valmera-Michaud.
Ok, parfait. Okay, and then we have Barb on the WebEx from MFS. You bet. Excellent. And Catherine from Wainwright.
Yes.
We also had signed up Catherine Villeneuve from NCR.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, fantastic. And Dana from Winnipeg?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And then we have Heather from Calgary. Okay. And Isabel from Greenwood? Okay, not able to make it. Jennifer from MFS, Jennifer Paul? Okay. And John from Esquimalt was going to try to make it.
I'm here.
Okay, excellent. And Karen from Moose Jaw. And then we have Leona from Greenwood. No. Louisanne from Kingston. No. And Nancy from Comox.
Hello.
Okay, and Tessa from Calgary. And Valerie from Hawaii.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, excellent. And there was also Sarah and Lisa from Halifax. Were you?
Hi, we're here.
Excellent. Okay, great. So is there anyone I missed?
Yeah, Lynn, Teresa, and Lisa from Borden.
Okay.
Nick from Yellowknife.
Okay, excellent.
And Jonathan, excuse me for not responding. This is Louisanne from Kingston.
Sure.
I'm also with Colleen, Nancy, and Stephanie.
Okay, excellent. Great. Anyone else I missed? Oh, it looks like Jennifer's actually on the line there. Great. Okay, excellent. So we got a full house today, but like I said, if you've got other people who want to hear about My Voice, who you think might be interested, then feel free to share this with them. What I'll try to do, rather than just leaving it on WebEx, I'll try to convert it and upload it to YouTube, since that makes it a little bit easier for folks at the MFRC level, I find, to be able to access the video. So let's head on to what we're talking about today. So I'll just go over a little bit about how the My Voice current process works, how we're doing in our minds, and based on what we're hearing from My Voice participants and other stakeholders. What are some of the themes and the scope of the comments that we're receiving from families? What are some of the lessons learned, and where are we looking in terms of the way ahead? And basically, you can see from the content of these slides that I've made these slides to kind of be able to stand on their own, and hopefully you guys will find that a little bit more useful, so that when you're going back to the presentation, you won't have to watch the entire thing over again. You can look at the slides, and they have a lot of the content in them. So in terms of the current process, this is, I apologize if I start coughing in that, it's just allergies. The current process basically starts at the top, so at the 12 o'clock of this circle, and this outlines the basic panel process, or the My Voice process. So basically we hear from families or connect with them first through Facebook, mostly 90% through Facebook, but also through family information line and email, and some of them choose to give me a call as well. Then we collect and summarize the feedback, directing it to stakeholders in order to get feedback from the stakeholders in terms of finding out what kind of information they might have for families to be able to respond to those comments, and any updates on where they're at in terms of some of the family issues. But we also wanted to refer it to the military chain of command, because this we want to make sure that this process is bringing families closer to the military chain of command, but also the military feel like they have a pulse on how families are doing as well. And then we report back on the progress of the military family issues directly to the families. And actually, just on that topic, what I'm going to do is just share my Google Chrome with you guys, because I wanted to show you exactly how to get to the website. So if you go to our website, I'm just trying to get to the tab here. So if you go to familyforce.ca.
While you're waiting too, if anybody wants to talk or use the chat, if you bring your mouse right up to the middle of the screen, you're going to see the panels for participant and chat. So you can continue chatting and carrying on while Jonathan's giving us a tour.
Super. Excellent. Thank you for that, Margaret. So you can see on the left-hand side of the Basic Family Force page, we've got the My Voice under Connect With Us. It's the fourth one down. You just click on that, and that takes you to the My Voice web page. Basically, it gives you an overview of what My Voice is all about and when the virtual sessions are. But the last one I'm going to be talking about is status updates. And this is really where I put all the family comments, okay? And you can see that I've organized it by theme. So if the family has made comments about child care or care for an elderly parent, that kind of stuff, that would fall under caregiving. Communications is more about the website and how we communicate with families, etc. So I won't go through all of them, but just to let you know, that's where you can find the latest information from families. So that's what I mean by reporting back on the progress. We also upload those files to the Facebook page just so that it's easier for those people on Facebook to be able to access it. Let's just, oh, we got a question from Barb. Yeah.
Hi, Jonathan. I'm just curious as to whether, if there's a discussion around OutCan, yeah, whether those folks, whether there's a theme category of OutCan, or whether they would be included in the other discussions.
Yeah, so great question. Right now they're included in all the other discussions. However, I mean, the themes aren't set, right? They're just based on what we've received thus far. If it's found that we have so many topics that are related to OutCan that are really separate from the rest of the issues that other military families are going through, then we can definitely create a separate theme for that. And we also talked a little bit about, I know at MFS we'll be talking a bit about what the fall theme weeks will be, and we'll likely be chatting about having an OutCan theme week as well.
That would be great,
yeah.
because they are, in many cases, significantly different issues.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's just get you guys on WebEx participating as well. So in terms of the web page that I just showed you, the status updates, can you give me a green check mark if you have seen that page before, or a red X if you have not ever seen that page before? Okay. Wow. So lots of green check marks. I'm impressed. That's
and
excellent.
the green check and red X is to the right of the raised hand icon if you've never been in a virtual classroom. And you click on them once, they work. If you click on them twice, they go down.
Okay, so I count 1, 2, 3. So there were about seven checks and about so 7 people who have seen it before, and about 4 or 5 X's, people who have never seen it before. So that's great. That's what this process is about, is sharing information as well, and to let you know where to find it. And whenever you're in doubt, don't be afraid to give one of us a call as well, and we're happy to walk you through the website. So just moving on to keep us on track with time. So what does the current process look like in terms of workload? A lot of people were wondering, are things grinding to a halt because of this process and that? Basically, we've divided the labor. That's the easiest way to work stuff. Usually a project this large, especially since we're over 1,000 members on Facebook now. So we've got facilitation that happens on My Voice. Generally takes about an hour a day, and that's by our comms team. And they facilitate discussion, because basically if you don't facilitate discussion, there's a chance that it will become so specific to an individual family member that other people won't feel involved. It's just like working with in a group setting, where if you have a sidebar conversation that ices out the rest of the people in the group, they're going to start to become less interested. So that's what the facilitation is for, as well as to let people know, let families know that they're being heard and that their voice is being carried forward. Then we have the monitoring and the data entry. So we have to be able to transfer all of the feedback that we receive, whether or not it's Facebook, through family information line, email, and record it consistently so that we can see how many comments we have, make sure that no comments are lost, and then take out all the identifying criteria so that people remain anonymous, and we're talking about the issues rather than the people making the comments. We have a feedback team meeting 1 hour per week, which is just a chance for me to divide up the labor a little bit and put a whole bunch of really smart people together, but especially people who have experience in the military family lifestyle from a variety of different settings. And basically they provide a lens to be able to view the family feedback so that we can actually view it with that experiential lens. Then we have the panel summaries that I just showed you that we come up with. Now the good thing is that we've saved a lot of time creating thematic summaries versus time summaries. What I mean by that is that previously I was creating summaries, for instance, for the January to June time period. Problem with that is that there are so many comments that come in even a 2-month period that it's a huge workload. I'd have to make sure that all the comments are answered and translated and all the stakeholders involved prior to putting them up on the family website, and that was really grinding things to a halt. So rather than doing that, I'm treating it one comment at a time and being able to put things up on the thematic summary as they get answered, which is a whole lot faster response time for families, which is really one of the main reasons why we have the My Voice process. I'm just going to check the chat. just to make sure that there are no questions coming up there that I'm missing. Okay. So, and lastly, we have the theme weeks that I was just talking with Barb about. That's a fairly new thing that we initiated this year, just to see if we could increase the number of families engaged. So basically, rather than making it a free-for-all, what do you want to talk about today, or providing a generalized question, we actually go into the themes that matter to families, and these are the themes that you guys have seen at the MFRC level in terms of the working groups that we've had. So child care, health care, mental health, all the typical themes that you might see. And we've actually had a fair amount of success increasing our engagement based on those themes. Okay, so how are we doing in this regard? First of all, I'm going to check how I'm doing in terms of timing, make sure I don't take up too much of your time. So in terms of the distribution of commenters, now you'll notice that 22% in the top left-hand corner, and for those of you on the phone who can't see this, by the way, I'll send around the presentation as well after so that you'll get it by email. But the 22% of the people, we actually don't know where they come from because basically it's self-identified. We don't want to oblige people to disclose their location, but it just helps us to have an idea of whether or not we're getting generalized representation. And you can see there that we're doing pretty well, actually. For the most part, the distribution of the commenters roughly matches the distribution of military families in that particular region. So, so we're doing fairly well in terms of broad representation, and we're also noticing that more members are commenting, which means that the more members we have engaged, the more representative the feedback that we're getting is of the general family population. So you can see with the percentages there, basically you multiply it by 1,000 because there's around 1,000 members on the My Voice, especially the Facebook page, which is about 90% of the feedback that we get. So I'm just zipping through this, but again, feel free to go over it after the presentation as well. If there are any questions at that point, feel free to give me a call, send me an email, and I'm happy to chat about it. So one thing that we've noticed in terms of how we're doing is that engagement is up. You can see the jump in engagement from January to February. Now, I want to ask you guys, actually, to get you guys engaged again, how many people, give me a green check, if you think that on average we have about 100 people commenting per month. How about the people on the phone? How many? Just say yes if you think that we have around 100 people commenting per month.
Yes.
Okay. So one person. Okay. So nobody's. Oh, yeah. We got a few takers online. Okay. Now that would have been true several months ago. The good news is that we've actually increased that number. You can see in January, our engagement was down a little bit. In February, it jumped up. And what I mean by engagement is the number of people who are commenting, liking, because that essentially when a person likes something, they're almost guaranteed to have at least read it, which means, in my mind, it's a level of engagement, even though it's not the same as commenting. And also those members posting themselves. So we saw a spike in February and March when we had our theme weeks. So we jumped from about 1 in 10 members engaging on the My Voice Facebook site to about 1 in 4. So between about 250 and 300 members per month are engaged to some level. So you can see on the next slide here, in early January, like I said, there were actually, well, in early January it was about 1 in 12 rather than 1 in 10. And then in late February we got to about 1 in 4. So that was great news, because really, I mean, if you have 2,000 members but only 4 of them are commenting, then it's not a very useful engagement tool. But if you've got several hundred commenting or engaging every month, then that's great, because that's also not counting the people who just derive a benefit from seeing the comments on the page and are kind of in the background watching the comment feed but don't feel the need to engage themselves. Okay. So actually, just one more thing I wanted to mention is that now you might be wondering, you might be thinking, since some of you are on Facebook and you're thinking, okay, there are a bunch of pages where we have thousands and thousands of members and stuff, so really, how big of a deal is it that we have 250 to 300 family members commenting or engaging on the site each month? Well, to give you an idea of how big a deal it is, I'm sure you all remember the Ombudsman's report that came out in 2013 on the home front. It guided a lot of our policies in military family services. It helped to inform our strategic plan, our operating plan, and it really drove a lot of the efforts forward in terms of trying to make things better for families. That was based on feedback from about 370 family members over the course of about a year or two. So that gives you an idea if a report that big can base its findings on 370 family members, we have access to almost that number of family members engaging on a daily basis. So that's really, it's a really powerful tool, powerful feedback tool that we have at our disposal on a daily basis. And that's why I encourage you guys to always check out the status summary page. We do keep the Facebook page restricted to family members only because we want to make sure that family members feel like it's a safe place. However, you can check the status updates, and if there's anything involving your MFRC in particular, then we'll always, just like Family Information Line has always done, we always take it down to the lowest common denominator. We don't believe in raising local issues up to the national level and chatting about them online. What we'll do is take that offline and then usually engage the MFRC at the local level, because usually those issues can be resolved, frankly, with a discussion between the MFRC and the family member concerned, or if it's with the chain of command, same thing. So let's move on to some of the positive secondary effects. I'm just checking the chat to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Actually, well, let's take this opportunity now that we're at 12:26. You guys have been listening for a long time. So why don't I open up the floor to questions? Any questions from the phone, first of all, about the My Voice process, how it works, any concerns, things you've heard?
Nancy Mopu from the MFRC.
Yeah.
I would like to know if you saw a difference between Francophone and Anglophone. I must say that I do see less of comments by Francophone.
Yes, yeah. That's a great point, because at first Quebec was actually the only province where we were lagging in the number of members compared with the number of family members that we knew were in that province. And so we thought, okay, what are the various reasons and that? And I know the comms team has reached out to the comms working group about these kinds of issues as well. So yes, we have noticed fewer French comments. The one thing that we've done to be able to balance that out a little bit is making sure that that basically we have French comments written by our comms team here that basically communicate back and forth with people who choose to raise issues in French, and that way they feel like it's really a safe place rather than it's just an Anglophone translating their comments into French. And that would, I mean, the same thing would be for an Anglophone in a Quebec or a Francophone environment, right? They want to feel like they're in a space where they can talk their lingo and that. So the comms team has worked really hard to have a contingent on board, and we have Richard Seguin as well as Chantal Beauchamp who are fielding kind of the questions in French, and that's raised the level of French conversation that we've had on the site. Did that answer your question?
Oui, merci.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions at this point or concerns? Okay, so so we're seeing several positive secondary effects, and I'll be talking a little bit about this in terms of what's in it for you. What does this entire process mean for you at the MFRC level? So in terms of communications, our communications at Military Family Services, we've gotten lots of good quotes and experiences from families on My Voice, and they've been used in things like My Military Life, one of the projects that the comms team is working on, and I expect you've probably seen that. Some of their videos, the annual reports. Also, our programs and policies have really benefited from this because it just helps to provide us with a different avenue of feedback to give us an idea, to make sure that we're guiding policies and programs according to current family needs. Because as you know, at the MFRC level, family needs change, right? It's very different nowadays than it was during the height of the operations in Afghanistan. So, so family needs are always changing, which is why it's good to have a social media pulse on things. We also see changes in the website. Last time I did this presentation, there were about 10 new pages. I think that's up to about 25 new pages now of information on the website, including a mental health section on Family Force. So even though Family Force is, I'm sure we could have an entire teleconference about that, even though it's not the ideal tool and it's currently in transition on the Convergence project, that's not stopping us from at least trying to put new information up there until we achieve that transition. And lastly, trust and engagement from families. We've noticed that families feel a whole lot more included, not just the ones that are on the working groups and advisory committees now, but those people who are responded to on social media, because one of the key pieces of feedback that we received when we started this process was we were telling families, well, you know, you've been surveyed so much over the years, are you going to be so tired of being asked your opinion that you aren't going to engage on Facebook? And they said collectively, we aren't tired of engaging, we're just tired of not hearing that. So, so that spoke to us about the necessity of actually making sure that we respond back to families, even if it's the fact that it's something that we can't achieve, like a national health card for families that would require changes to the Canada Health Act, or changes at the Treasury Board level and stuff like that. Even if the suggestions are unattainable, families want to know if they want to hear back. And usually they really appreciate it, even if the answer is, I'm sorry, that's probably not going to be happening for several years, if not, if at all, because that would require a change in law. Now, in terms of tangible effects, a lot of people say, okay, so where's the beef here? What actual effects have you had on My Voice? So one of them is increased engagement from our stakeholders. So we have 15 routine stakeholders who are engaged on a regular basis, and those are people who we go to answer questions specifically from families about their subjects of expertise. So it might be Director General Compensation and Benefits. We have contacts in Brookfield. We have contacts in the Housing Authority, Career Management, in Sun Life, in CISIF, in PSP, Military Family Fund. So these are the kinds of stakeholders I'm talking about, and that's been a huge boon for us because it helps us to be a lot more effective in helping military families, because as you know, families don't really care who the help comes from as long as the help is obtained. Also, we've noticed changes with Canada Revenue Agency, which I got to tell you, we almost had a party when we heard that the CRA changed its rules, because that's almost like seeing something change in law. It's a very rare occurrence. And they agreed in 2015 to modify the residency determination procedures for spouses of military members posted out of country. which was huge for a number of people going through that situation. So that was, again, a tangible effect of, it wasn't just My Voice. I'm not saying that these are just as a result of the people on My Voice, but basically it's due to the fact that the My Voice population and the feedback that we received provided the impetus, the justification, and the sheer numbers behind the issue to be able to drive these issues forward and achieve these tangible effects. Child care policy, we've had changes in the child care policy that I'm sure you guys have seen because you've been having to refer to it. And then we've also got changes in Treasury Board policy. As a result of the comments on My Voice, as well as those families from before, Children's Education Management has been able to have Treasury Board approved tutoring for military children returning from OutCan in 2015. So, so yeah, these are pretty tangible things that are. It's amazing what the collective influence of many families can, the impact that can have for stakeholders. It's one thing to talk about one family bringing this issue forward. It's another thing to say, well, you know what, this is 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 families going through this issue and be able to tangibly show that to the stakeholders. So what are the themes and the scopes? Oh, I was going to ask you a question before this, but now I've spoiled the surprise. So we'll move straight on to the themes here. I was going to actually ask you how many people think that mental health is the most common theme on there, because I get a lot of people, especially in the chain of command, and a lot of folks around civilians working with the military and that, who think that mental health might be the issue that comes up the most. It's not, actually. It's communications is the biggest issue, and this is basically a year and a bit worth of data that comprises this analysis. So what do I mean by communications comments? So this is 320 comments in total that make up that 25%. So that's usually regarding a lack of awareness of services, so families asking about what services exist for this and that, childcare, mental health, deployments, all that kind of stuff. Also, many families are asking for the need, are mentioning the need for consistency of communications from us, from family services, as well as from the military family resource centers, and the need for a better national website. No big surprise there. So an example of the quote from My Voice is, here's a quote from a family: "Information about programs and services needs to be current, in-depth, and accessible from a single point of contact." So these are the kinds of quotes that are really useful for us to be able to contextualize, okay, what are families really saying about this and what's really important as we move forward with convergence and some of the other communications issues. Now, I won't go through all of these because that would take the entire hour, but you can see the basic breakdown. I've also got the breakdown of all the other issues that don't fall within the top 6, if you were ever interested to find out about those. It's many pages long, but I won't go into that level of detail unless you contact me afterwards or unless a question comes up about it, because I don't want to bore you too much with the details. Suffice to say, we're getting a lot of different comments on different topics here. So now, how many of these issues? It's one thing to say, okay, we've got a lot of issues going on. Now, a lot of people, especially chain of command, military, who never knew about My Voice and that, they thought when we start this this process, I bet you the majority of comments are not even going to fall within military family services scope of influence. And to tell you the truth, it surprised us to what degree many of the issues coming up on My Voice fell within the family services scope of influence. You can see that the vast majority of issues are weak in influence within family services. So, so those are issues whether or not related to, like I said before, childcare, education, employment, mental health, these kinds of things. However, there were some others. You can see some others in the pie there that are related to housing or local issues that came up, issues regarding the public service healthcare plan, family doc, provincial issues like healthcare policies and that, over which we don't really have a whole lot of control. Compensation and benefits were another aspect, so CBI there. The other category noted as other there at the bottom. Let's put a little arrow there. There we go. The other category constitutes basically things like imposed restrictions, CANX, DCSM, CISIP, support our troops, and stuff like that. So again, if you need to know the detail behind those things, then just let me know. But that gives you a basic idea of how it's broken up. So what are some of the lessons learned? Well, basically, as many of you know, I know many of you are actually based on your signature lines, and that I was really pleased to see that so many of you are in communications, because I know this stuff is really important to you, and many of you are experts in this field. So I'm kind of preaching to the converted here, but when I presented to the rest of the Military Family Services staff, I made sure to mention that social media is an immediate, interactive, and participatory forum, right? So what I mean by that is that you can't just post something and then leave it there and not facilitate or comment on it. You can't expect people not to comment on it, and you have to be there to actually encourage people to make comments and delve into the issues. So really, ongoing consultation requires care and feeding, and that's what I mean by that. It really has to be interactive and requires ongoing maintenance. So we need to make sure that we continue facilitating and continue trying different ways of engaging the family members to make sure that they feel like they're heard and make sure it's interesting for them to continue to be involved. It takes a team in terms of, like I said before in one of the previous slides, we've got the feedback team, we've got various people on the family services team that are involved with answering some of the questions about employment, education, mental health, the various national initiatives, as well as directing people to the local initiatives. So it really does take everybody coming together to work to make this work, because otherwise we won't end up with responsiveness for families and the interest will just drop off. And that leads to the third point, which is responsiveness is really key to maintaining the trust and credibility. Because like I said, it's an interactive forum. If we're not getting back to families for months and months and months or never, then the trust just won't be there and they won't find it a useful tool at all. Okay, so way ahead, basically the strategies for maintenance. I don't know if you guys would be very interested in this, so I'll just breeze through it fairly quickly. Workload. I'm sure many of you as comms managers have found that not every comment on Facebook requires a response. Generally, we have FIL that helps to monitor outside of the business day. That helps to maintain the site. As well, we have themed summaries that makes it easier for families to comment and hopefully get them more engaged. And MFS engagement, like I said, we have staff engaged so that our comms team is not expected to be the subject matter expert in everything related to military families. They've got a whole bunch of people they can ask, whether or not it's MFS staff, whether or not it's you folks at the local level, other groups of military family members. And really, given that Facebook is an interactive forum, sometimes we put the question back to families and say, what do you think about this? Does this cover off the issues? And we've also got one other way to maintain the site is referral to the MFRCs and to family information line. So like I said earlier, for local issues, just like they've always done in family information line, we refer families back to the local MFRC. So sometimes family information line assists with setting up a discussion between the family and the MFRC or the local chain of command. But basically, local issues really can best be resolved at the local level. they don't need to be bumped up to a national level for the most part, unless they're systemic issues, in which case it's no longer local. It's being it's something that is best dealt with by some sort of national initiative. So what's in it for you in terms of My Voice? Well, first of all, you have access to the summaries that may be useful in terms of family feedback, and I directed you to where you can find that info. But that stuff is really, a lot of the feedback is really gold for us in terms of annual reports. So I know for you guys, it may be of great use as well, especially when you're trying to convey to other stakeholders, other funders, and that what families are going through. Now, another thing is that the family panel process has a built-in system of stakeholder consultation. So, like I showed you in the cycle there, the circle diagram, we contact stakeholders as part of the process. So this is to ensure that we're taking a collaborative and collegial approach. The purpose of My Voice was never to get people in trouble or enable other people to get other people in trouble. The idea was to be collaborative, to work on behalf of families. So that's why we involve stakeholders in the process, so that before reporting back to families, we check in with stakeholders to find out, have you guys heard this before from families? What's being done about this? Is there any info that we can share with families about that? Because we can't speak for other people like CanX and CISIP as well. It would be unfair to them and to families for us to try to speak on their behalf. And also for the built-in system of stakeholder consultation allows us to nip issues in the bud and save time. So that's another thing that's in it for you, right? In terms of if you're worried about something going online on social media and then spinning out of control, this enables us to be able to track this early and be able to engage you early at the local level so that we can stop it becoming ministerial or any of those other things that really doesn't serve many people, including the people making the ministerials. It's an additional resource for families, so it enables you to be proactive. And it enables us to be proactive as well. And the reason why I say you is because I assume that based on what I've seen, a lot of you already have your own Facebook pages as well. So you've probably found that it's a great proactive resource, and that way it's a lot less cumbersome to maintain than a website. So you can share information really quickly, and it enables you to get feedback really quickly as well. You get some great qualitative feedback from families that allows you to maintain a pulse, especially when you've got a whole bunch of rotations of families coming through where the dynamics of your family community might change significantly from one year to the next. And lastly, it's a referral for systemic issues. So for all those issues, that you run into at the local level, that frustrate all military families as well as you guys and us, that it can't be resolved at the local level. So things like healthcare access, that's a problem for all Canadians, but especially for military families across Canada. Childcare issues, employment issues, these kinds of things that are real systemic issues. This gives you a place where you can refer families to speak their voice about some of these systemic issues that they're going to, rather than being able to say, you know what, that's kind of a provincial issue or it's a national issue. I'm sorry, we can't really do much about it. Now you can direct people so that we can gather their feedback and use it as an argument to create this systemic change. So hopefully that will help to broaden the trust among family members as well. And frankly, I think that it might be quite a rewarding process and lead to greater engagement of your staff as well, because I know that many MFRC staff that I've spoken to have been asking for a greater social media presence. And this provides just another tool. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's just another way for us all to be able to connect with families and for families to feel included in the process. Okay, So yeah, that was all I had. The last slide is just a sort of summary. Did you know a few numbers on there? But I'll open up the floor now. We're at 12:48. So hang on a sec. We've got a question on the chat. So okay. Hang on. From Angela. Can we be notified when the feedback is updated? Absolutely. We'll let you know, but please do check the site sort of on a monthly basis, just to, especially for the themes that are important to you. Like for instance, if you're in communications, probably the communications theme might be of interest, and frankly, that's the most popular theme among military families, so it's most likely to be updated more regularly. So I check that on sort of a monthly basis, just in case we've just updated one comment at a time. We might not send out a global email to everyone, otherwise you guys will start feeling like we're spamming you. Okay. Leona, would you like us to share the theme weeks or start using the My Voice on our MFRC Facebook pages? Absolutely. Feel free to share any of the stuff on My Voice, except for, of course, individual comments and stuff like that. But if you're talking about things like theme weeks and that, and or encouraging people to, bring systemic issues to My Voice, then by all means, please direct them to the website, and they need to be approved as a member of the group. So that would be excellent. Like I said, the more family members that we get engaged, the more representative the feedback is that we get of all family members, not just the people who we've often heard from. Anyone on the phone who had any questions, concerns, comments? Okay. Hope my microphone isn't on mute. Sounds like deep space out there. On mute. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. We've got a question on WebEx.
From Catherine.
People verified for approval. Okay. So excellent question. We started looking at this in terms of seeing how are we going to verify, how are we going to maintain this, and how are we going to still not be asking for private info, because we don't want to be too intrusive and ask for private info, but at the same time we want to make sure it's a safe forum for all family members. So what we decided to do was create a compromise, which some people makes nobody happy, but it was the compromise that we've achieved thus far that seems to have worked. Is that for people who it's obvious that they're spammers or that they aren't from a military family member, we can tell that they're rerouting from Uzbekistan or something like that, then obviously we aren't going to approve them, or we're going to take them off the site. For people selling stuff, those kinds of things, if they want to sell Ray-Bans to military families, and we won't approve them. Also, I check periodically. I send a message to all those people who have requested access in the last few months. So I did that fairly recently with about 50 or 60 members who joined. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's received that, but the majority of My Voice members have received a private message from me asking them to confirm that they are family members. If they don't get back, then I write another message saying, please confirm by such and such a date. And then if they don't at that point, right now there's about, I think, 30 people who have yet to confirm with me, and if they don't confirm in the next week or so, then they'll be removed from the site. And I usually follow that up with a message saying, if I made a mistake and you are a family member and you just didn't get a chance to read the message, please let us know and we'll reapprove your membership. So that's how we deal with that.
Actually, you know how to help.
Sorry, was that a question in the background or a sidebar discussion?
Sidebar.
Oh, okay. All right. So the next question we have you noticed if certain bases have a high number of people commenting on specific issues? I'm wondering if housing is a bigger issue out here. Yeah. So great question. Yes, there does tend to be some of the issues get raised, like housing and that, where we know that it's traditionally more of an issue on some bases than on others, bases or wings. But generally, it's surprising how consistent the feedback is, because you also got to remember that the My Voice members, even though they might be currently in Wainwright or Shiloh, they just came from Calgary or Halifax and stuff. So a lot of the time they're talking about previous experiences as well. So that enables us to, through the facilitation, to find out, is this something that you currently are going through or something that you previously went through, and how long ago, and how many times did you go through this? Did you notice it at multiple locations? Just to find out more detail about it so that we can carry that feedback forward as effectively as possible. Question, there's a hand up from Catherine, I think. Catherine Villeneuve, you had your hand up?
Yes, it was to comment, more to question, but it was to say that I was already with the MFRC in Ottawa when the initiative started, and we really noticed a difference in the data collection when you switch to themes.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's fantastic because it's much more resourceful now to compile for policies and reports. So that was in the involvement from members as well. It was much more directed, and I'm sure it was easier to monitor on your side. So we thought it was a fantastic switch.
Good, good. Yeah. Well, and frankly, I mean, when I was compiling the feedback sheet for a 5-month period, and it was 28 pages long, I asked all my colleagues, and I spoke to a number of family members, and I said, listen, if I was a family member, I would not be reading through 28 pages worth of data, right? They want to get to the meat of where did I create that comment. So it's much easier to do if it's broken down by theme than by time period. So I'm glad you guys found that effective too. And any other questions or comments on the phone or on WebEx?
Just, it's Barb. Just to follow up on that previous comment, you know, I think it's a lot easier for people to get their head around making a comment if there's some focus like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, they might have been more leery to start something up, but if it's in response to something, I think it's a lot easier to get your head around that.
Absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of one of the reasons why the theme weeks are successful as well, is because when you restrict the discussion to a particular theme, then that's something that people can really sink their teeth into in terms of talking about their individual experiences with that. Whereas if you just ask a general question about the military lifestyle, it's like, where do I start? You know, and they don't want to take the time on their little phone to write down their entire life story. So having a theme weeks, I think, has been huge in terms of getting people feeling like they can really engage in a meaningful way. Any other, I'm just checking for any hands up here on WebEx. Any other comments or concerns, questions from the teleconference? Check on WebEx again. Okay. And I think I got all the chat questions, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. And in any case, if after looking at the presentation slides, there's a fair amount of content in it. So if something is confusing, or if you've got questions from your staff about what does he mean by this, what are they doing about this and that, feel free to give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to chat over the phone or send you some additional info. I wanted to keep the info fairly refined here just because too much data is just like, it's overwhelming and mind-numbing. So so feel free to ask any questions if you want more detail on any of the stuff discussed today. So it looks like we're out of questions. I'm just going to double check on WebEx. Okay, and unless anyone else has any questions, we're right on time at 12:58 my time. So I guess we'll finish it today. But like I said, this will be recorded. I'll download it, convert it, and then put it up to YouTube. It'll take several days to do that, but I'll send around the presentation right away just so that you can have a look at the slides, especially if you're on the teleconference. All right, so thank you so much for taking the hour today to meet up with us all and chat about this. And like I said, any questions, send them my way. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, too. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So in order to exit out, you just click on the red at the top right-hand side of your screen.
Jonathan?
Yeah?
This graphic that you've got in this slide,
Yeah?
how did you make that?
How did I make the graphic?
Yeah, is it a standard in PowerPoint, or did you create it?
No, actually I used what's called a, there's a person online who provides her stuff for free that she's created these what's called a diagrammer templates for PowerPoint.
Oh.
And just to create these more attractive PowerPoint slides.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can send you her website if you want.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to get away from sort of the mind-numbing usual blah 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 with the PowerPoint. Sometimes having a visual in there is useful.
Yeah, no, and I'm always trying to find those, but there's, I mean, it's nice when you can see how they actually show up.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All righty, bye-bye.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
See you, Barb. Jonathan, you want to stop the recording?
Sure, that would be great.
You'll have to do it, go to session, and then stop recording, because you're the host with the most.
Host with the most.